Once again, we had the pleasure of a very fast-paced episode, and we covered a lot of ground. And I will say there were a few moments where I thought it skipped around a little bit too much. However, Outlander skipping ahead isn't exactly new. And again, this episode covered a lot of ground. We solved one mystery, began an entirely new adventure, and the ending was, if nothing else, explosive. And that's not even the half of it for Outlander Season 7, Episode 2, The Happiest Place on Earth. Now, when it comes to our standout scenes for this episode, I'm gonna have to start with Alan's confession. Not just because it solved that first mystery, or two, who killed Malva and who's the father of the baby, but because it introduced so many other elements. We find out about Malva's plan to get a husband and why. And also we find out that Alan had himself a different plan to blackmail Jamie so that he could escape with his sister. We also find out that Malva, in the end, she just didn't want to hurt Claire. Alan's plan would do just that, and so she was about to go tell him the truth when Alan killed his sister. We also see that Ian heard Alan's confession, and his reaction was extreme to say the least. However, I do think it was important for us, the viewers, to see him end someone's life and see how he reacted to it when it was someone he believed deserved it. And of course, the funniest little element of the story, Ian and Claire burying the body and are come upon by Mrs. Bug. She, of course, not really worried about any of the action. She trusts them and never really liked Alan. Now, for my second standout scene, it's going to be Lord John and Jamie and their little discussion. Yeah, this one was really hard to watch. It made me cry quite often. You know, these two men, they respect each other, they care for each other deeply. They are best friends, if there is such a thing in this time. And to find out that really, because they're on different sides, that this may be the last time they see each other for a good long while, that is heartbreaking. They've really counted on each other, and as Jamie says, he will always be his friend. A really great element of this scene, though, is when Lord John pulls the gem from his breast pocket, which I think it was very telling to see that he pulled it on this side, above his heart. I thought that was a nice little touch. And the fact that he hands it over to Jamie for Jamie's daughter without really knowing what the reason is, I think that also shows just how deep the connection is between these two men. On a personal note, I think it's going to be very strange going forward and not seeing them meet on occasion or share their lives on occasion. I wonder how that will go going forward on screen. Now, for my third standout scene, it's going to be the goodbye at the Stones. We knew this time-traveling adventure was going to come. We expected Bree, Roger, Jemmy, and at the time, not knowing for sure it was going to be Amanda, but Amanda to be traveling forward at some point. We've seen the image in the trailer of someone with a hard hat, not exactly your normal 1800s attire. So I think the creator's ability to really tug at our heartstrings when we knew this farewell would be coming up was just an excellent, excellent bit of production. We had the little goodbyes between each character, Jamie saying goodbye to his grandchildren in only the way that Jamie could. I do love the little reference to Michael. But the really difficult thing was there was no way of getting around it for the family, that they would have to split up. And having Mandy be the cause is really the perfect reason to save the extension of their family. Now, the reason they travel forward in the books is exactly the same. Mandy's heart needs surgery, and Claire, as much as she would like to be able to, is not equipped to save her own grandchild. And so we get this really wonderful goodbye scene and another tearful moment for us as viewers, hoping that everything will go well for them once they get to the future. And now my very final standout scene is going to be Wendigo Donner visiting the Ridge. This can't be too much of a surprise. However, I found myself sort of thinking, well, as Wendigo is holding Claire, that, well, he better watch out, Jamie will be here any second. I was so caught up in the moment that it didn't occur to me that that isn't what happens. So I think that that is why I have to put this on my standout scenes, because even though I kind of knew what was happening, we all did, I was still caught off guard by the fact that Jamie didn't swoop in and save everybody. Him being brought in by Wendigo's pals or cohorts, I'm not really sure how we want to put that one. It was somehow shocking, even though I knew it was going to happen. But even this scene, even though we knew what was going to happen, it was done so well, so quickly. It had every piece of how this terrible fire happens thrown in, the idiocy of throwing ether on the ground, and then the baffling move of Wendigo lighting a match. He could smell the chemicals. I don't know why anyone from modern times would be like, hey, it's a chemical smell, we need flame. But that entire exchange between Wendigo, Claire, Jamie, as Jamie explains that his wicked wife hid the gems last time he was out, it was just so funny and scary, and it really enthralls you as the viewer as to, oh boy, what will be happening next? And that's what we kind of want. Even though we know what's going to happen, it's nice to have all these elements sort of keep us on the edge of our seat. And of course, the crazy reveal, Mr. and Mrs. Bug have been hoarding Jacobite gold. Jocasta and her husband, when they were fleeing Scotland, we did get to see them taking some gold with them. That's how they were able to start a life in the United States. They didn't save the Jacobite gold, or at least not all of it. And that's covered in the books. And then suddenly, Mr. and Mrs. Bug have this gold just sort of there. And Jamie seems awful shocked and surprised about that. Now, obviously, I've already let it slip that it is Jacobite gold. We know somebody who had Jacobite gold. We wonder how Mr. and Mrs. Bug came upon this Jacobite gold. Soon to be revealed, I'm sure, in episodes coming. However, the part that I liked best in this scene was Jamie's introduction to exactly who Donner was. His reaction was fantastic, and I think if Donner is to live, Jamie will make sure that that life is short after this apparent explosion. Now we've reached the halfway point of this little review. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, don't forget to like below and subscribe so you'll get next week's update. Also consider becoming a member, because you get to have a little star by your name when you comment and get a little extra tidbits behind the scenes and personal life, for me, updates from time to time. You could also decide to be a Patreon, where I'm not as good at the updates there, but I do post the videos that I make here to that site with no commercials. So if you have been enjoying this channel, please consider supporting or sponsoring by becoming either a member or a patron. Now on to those honorable mentions, which I do like to keep between 2 and 4 items per list, simply so I don't drive myself crazy making these videos. However, with episodes like this, it really is difficult. Instead of being on the 2 to 3 side, it's a 4 and a 4 each time so far. And so for my very first honorable mention in this episode, it's going to be Jemmy and his airplane. That cut as we can hear the airplane getting a little closer and Jemmy holding his plane up against the sky. That really was well done, and a terrific transition to show they have come from one time and are now in another. It is confirmation that their trip was successful, and it was a really nice way to do it. Now for my second honorable mention, it's going to be Claire's grief. We needed to see her get over some pain if the story was going to move forward. However, we've seen these couple in lovely orange light with a firelit glow behind them in a beautiful setup with them in their bed. That scene, not new. However, to move forward, you'd have to see this mother who has lost an entire extension of herself through time get over that loss. And we needed to see her get over this pain in a way much healthier than she was getting over pain last season. So if nothing else, it may have not have been a pivotal moment that truly sends this story forward, but it was a cleansing moment that we needed to see from Claire, from Jamie, that they are sharing their pain together, and he is being Jamie, letting her cry, and she is being Claire, expressing this pain and moving forward like she always does so well. Now for my third honorable mention, it's going to be that scene with the fireflies. It's another one that we were expecting out of the novel and had seen from the trailer, so we knew we would get some version of that moment, and it was really well put together. The fireflies, I thought, whether they were all CGI or not, I could not tell. It looked like a mix between natural and some CGI to really give it some brilliance. And it was wonderful listening to Brianna tell Jamie what it was like in Disney World. Her description and the magical feel of it. And I really loved that when it came down to it, it was he that she thought was magical. And the joy that I think we saw on his face for a brief moment at the comparison was really, really beautiful. But my favorite part of this particular scene is their imagining of Jamie in the future. I think it was really kind of fun, her thinking of Jamie in some sort of position like Frank had been in, a three-piece suit, going to an office. And then she switches thoughts to, well, he could be a printer. And Jamie thinking forward that, well, people always will eat, he could always farm. Things might be a little different in the future, but the man can grow food. So there would be a future for him if he could travel. And the entire imagining was really sweet, and a sweet moment between father and daughter. And my fourth honorable mention, even though it seems like I already mentioned it, I have to say it specifically, it's that big explosion. I mean, we knew there was going to be a fire, and logically, yes, if you have chemicals in the air, there will be a burst, but I was not expecting it to bust out of the house like that. I think they may have overdone it a little bit in the pyrotechnics department, because explaining anyone's survival could be interesting. And if you realize in those trailer images of Claire and getting the bucket of water, she didn't really look singed. Yeah, I have my doubts that people would come out of it without being at least singed. But that explosion was impressive and unexpected. I don't know about you. Please let me know in the comments. Were you expecting this whooshum? It was just so much larger than I had thought it would be, or pictured in my mind when reading the books. Now, of course, I can't name every moment in this episode. There were so many extra elements thrown in. In this episode, we had some of those moments expected from the trailer. Bree and William finally meet face to face. Jamie telling Claire of his dreams. Roger sharing with Jamie how proud he is to be part of his family. But we also had some great moments from the novels. Bevan Boulder was particularly happy with Jamie's well wish to Michael, and I just enjoyed Brianna's description of Disney from a child's point of view. Now, I admit this episode had me double guessing my picks because, as last week, just so much happens. Amanda's birth and diagnosis, having a prayer, Claire turning down a gem, the montage for time passing, and Lizzie's baby coming into the world. So, with all of these amazing moments happening, what was your favorite scene? What honorable mention would you have included? Let me know in the comments below. Now, what did I think of the episode? I think you already know. I thought it was fantastic. The elements that they pulled from the book and followed as closely as they could have, I thought were done really well on screen. The bits of changes and the skipping over to get us where we needed to be, it was again done well, tastefully. It didn't skip anything that seemed vital to the story, and even some of those elements were introduced in different ways so that we can keep up with these different little subplots that help drive the story forward and oftentimes connect our characters in ways that we would not have guessed. Now, if you just found me this week, hi and welcome. I hope you have enjoyed the review so far. You should go check out last week's review. Always feel free to comment. I answer them way more than I should probably. But I always enjoy the discussions that come up about our episodes and about our characters, what they're doing, how they've gotten to where they are, and what the heck is going to happen to them next. But before you go, I do want to thank you so much for joining me here today. Do please check out one of these videos, and we'll see you there.